Hey, I like it to play golf.
Hey, Ron. Good, good. Okay, good morning, everyone. Hi. My name is Chris Caius. I am the chairman of the Administration Committee for Kane County. And I'm calling this meeting to order at 9 a.m.
Get on with my committee.
on November 9th, 2022. 10 a.m. Sorry, the agenda.
Anything too important yet. I gotta get more coffee.
And Mr. Chairman, we did correct.
It should be noted that this meeting.
The clock back there is fine. I didn't look at it. At 10 a.m. Thank you for the correction.
Then our.
Always a good way to start a meeting.
Rather than our usual 10:30.
Yeah, well, I want to get ahead of it. I thought it was 9.
Little error
Okay.
on the agenda.
With the new agendas, we got a whole system, so we will talk about some other things down the way here. Okay, so I'm calling the order. Roll call, please.
Berman.
Here.
Davis. Ford. Froz. Gums. Martin.
Martin present.
Caius.
Vice President.
You have quorum.
Have a quorum.
Fry's present.
Here we go. Hi, Drew. Okay, good morning. May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of October 12th, 2022?
Fort moves.
Ford.
Second.
Seconds. I had one small change that's more or less a Scrivener's error. I added, so, but other than that, anything else? Okay. Roll call, please.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Froz.
Fry's, yes.
Gums. Martin. Caius.
Caius, yes. Okay. And I'm going to assume, as Mr. Surges did this morning, that the financial report is on file, even though it doesn't mention it here. Minutes are approved. Is there any public comment? Anyone in person or online that wishes to speak? I have gotten no notification, so we'll move right along. Thank you. Facilities management. And my agenda says that we start with item A, which is a resolution, but I guess that's part of the new system too. We'll have that fixed, right? It's going to be
Yeah, it's discussion only. so-
discussion only. So this is the executive director's report. That's you, Mr. Fonstock.
Yes, so Blair, I'm gonna share my screen from here. Just so we can see the presentation back. So give me 1 second. Okay. 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 So you should see the, let's see if we can get it back to the first slide. The report today, we're going to cover both IT department and the building management in one report. In the future, we'll update that so that it reflects that in the agenda packet. The agenda packet software, just so you're aware, is something that is being changed from an old product we used for a period of probably 12 to 15 years. And they're switching it out to a new product from the same vendor. And this is one of the first weeks. So some of the things that we're seeing are the artifacts of trying to switch between the two. We're trying to get those straightened out, but we're hoping that through the standing committee process, we'll have all those worked out in time for exam.
Tyler?
What?
Does that include naming the committee members?
Yes,
In there,
that'll
okay.
be all of the agenda packets. Some of this was done manually and kind of taking the automated part and the manual part, but putting it together. So I think some of those automated features have to be configured as we go live with this. There's never really a good time to do it. We have meetings 4 weeks straight, all the meetings in a row. So trying to switch between the two. So I just wanted to cover some of the building management activities that we've been working on. We're still working through the reorganization. I will tell you that right now, we have all the positions that building management has approved from the board hired. So we are back to full staff with our building management team. The last building maintenance director came on board a week ago. I think just literally a week ago. So we're in good shape with hiring back talent to start maintaining the buildings. I think a lot of the offices and departments are experiencing that. There's people, there's responsiveness, there's a lot of work getting done. One of the things that those folks are working on is the preventative maintenance and service request system. For many years, we've had a system that was in place but underutilized. And I think the perception of the preventative maintenance and service request system was negative, partly because it was under implemented and underutilized, and it was fairly cumbersome. So with Henry Thompson, the building management director, and the team, we've been looking at and acquired a new preventative maintenance and service request system. I think it's FSI is the company that's providing the software. They've configured the service desk part of it. The nice part of it is that the service desk will no longer require every person that submits a request to have authentication, log in, and go through a larger process. It's a simple web form. They can submit it and pick their department, pick their office. There's drop downs for the types of issues that they might have, and then they can put in custom items if they want to, but it's really user friendly, and it doesn't require overhead to get a service request in. Then those requests come in, get prioritized and distributed to the staff. There's tracking, reporting. We can actually have some accountability about what gets asked for and what we actually are doing with it. I think that falls in line directly with what we're trying to accomplish in improving the customer service, the customer experience with maintenance requests. A lot of the maintenance requests, would linger or kind of, get lost in the system, in the old system. A lot of that we think will be addressed by this new solution, and also just the implementation of it, the fact that we're putting the effort in to get it up and running, get it marketed to the offices and departments. There's going to be a memo and some one pagers that tell you how to use the system, how to get a ticket into the system, and then what to expect when the ticket gets processed. Certain requests will be prioritized as urgent or critical. Others might be, less critical or moderate, type of thing. Others might be projects that require parts, or they require some time to plan. So there's a whole degree of how you prioritize and how you schedule the work. I think that'll be a big improvement. The other thing that the system does is it allows us to take inventory of all the buildings and assets in the buildings, whether it's mechanical systems, heating, air conditioning, boilers, water heaters, whatever we may have, and put them into the system as assets. And then each asset gets its own preventative maintenance schedule. So we're working through that with Henry and the guys to try and get schedules on all major mechanicals. And I think we're making good progress with that. We got to get it entered into the system. The old system had some of that. It was followed kind of on and off. It wasn't always consistent. And the goal is to tie this to work orders. So each technician in the buildings will get a work order that is assigned to them based on the ticketing system to do their preventative maintenance schedule in the actual buildings. To follow up on that, we have a person that's responsible as the director of maintenance for each campus. There's one for the government center and buildings, and there's one for the judicial center and buildings. So at this campus, Brent Brasky is responsible for this building, this campus, and a couple of other satellite buildings. And then we have Matt Walker, who's at the judicial center campus. They'll be meeting and engaging with the officials, with the department heads, trying to get a handle on some of it's like the mechanical part of what we need to do. And the other part is the perception of getting to know the officials and what they want and what they think needs to be done. And they're sometimes two different things that you have to understand. So we're trying to get that kind of socialization of people on the campus so they know who to go to. We're also working on the phone system so that people can call a single phone number. And if they don't want to go online and fill out a bunch of paperwork or forms to get a service request in, we'll have a number where people can call and we'll have somebody enter the request for them. We also are going to have it based on email. So there'll be a form, there'll be an email capability, and there'll be a phone call human capability, which I think those things are something that we've done in IT fairly well. And we want to translate that over into building management because people don't always communicate their issues the same way. Some of the judges want to call somebody and just drop it on them. That's it. They don't want to go on, fill out forms and do that. So we have to make that work for them as well as myself. I'd prefer to go in and fill out the form and do the long part and make sure I give them details. But it's not that way for everybody. We are doing asset tagging, a lot of inventory work. We have a lot of assets that are in these buildings that we need to identify, know what they are, and have the maintenance schedules. So that's ongoing. I will tell you that the service request part of it is online December 1st. That's our goal right now. If you don't know, Henry Thompson is the building management director. He's here with us today. I think he was introduced at the last month's meeting, but never hurts to introduce you again, Henry. Third time. Yeah. The next item in the list for activities is the boiler project. So as most of you are aware, we had boilers that needed to be repaired or replaced. I'm sorry. And it was basically an emergency before winter. The first boiler was cut in to service sometime first week of November, I believe, late October, early November. And the other two are on site and being connected now. We're on schedule to be done in the next probably 2 weeks with all the boiler replacement. And that'll close out a lot of the issue that we had with the former boilers that were not serviceable. The boiler project included the change of the combustion air and the exhaust so that we're not combusting air from inside the room, which was one of the things that contributed to the problem with the former boilers. We're also working on monitoring control systems in the room for air quality, whether it's carbon monoxide, refrigerant, gas. We're trying to get some sensors. And we've also done some policy things with how we control access to the rooms, closing the doors, trying to make sure that we contain the room air and the location better so that people aren't walking through it. But that's been a successful project. We had a couple change orders, nothing outside of our contingency, and I think it'll wrap up in 2 weeks. So the demolition work at Fabian is going out to bid. We met with Energy and Environment, Jody Walnick, and then we're trying to get some more detail on the recycling and some of the environmental things that need to be done, whether it's with the buildings. There's some asbestos on the site. There's some underground tanks from the fuel center that's there. So we have to make sure we have all of that accounted for in the bid specs. We should get that out, I think, in December and have a final proposals in that we'll bring back. I'm thinking we'll be back in here in January with the final proposals for the demo work. Renovation of the courtroom at the Judicial Center. The multipurpose room in the lower level was demoed. They ripped out basically everything in the room and they've been reconstructing it as a courtroom. And that part is supposed to be done by the end of this year. And right now, the architects and construction management would tell you they're on schedule.
Why are you chuckling?
It's a lot. I mean, you go over there, I think last week we were over there. It's still just basically the shell of a space. They have to build it all back. And there's a lot of timelines for supply chain. We have a lot of stuff, furniture, carpet, materials, everything has to come in. Everything indicates that they're going to do it and they're going to have it done, but we're down to the last 6 weeks. And if you saw it today, it's pretty barren. It's an empty room with the bones of the structure are there. So waiting for them to bring in all the finished material. The space needs assessment. We received comments and feedback. We probably had about 10 different comments and feedbacks, different varying degrees of comments. we're working with White. We're going to be meeting with them and talking with them about how we incorporate the comments and feedback into the study. One of the things that was discovered, Jody Walnick and Mark Armstrong and some others have pointed out that the CMAP released new numbers in October, which was about a week or so after this report was finalized, or the draft was provided. I guess it wasn't finalized. So we're going to go back to White and ask them to incorporate the October CMAP numbers instead of the ones that they used. The ones they used were from an earlier period of time. And I think the numbers from CMAP actually adjust down. So our growth is less. So that's important. And, you know, the people that identified the October numbers coming out and trying to help us get that incorporated, I think that'll improve our accuracy with the report. So that was good. There's a few other things that were added, comments about, you know, how is the workforce change in the future, remote work, you know, office space requirements, those types of things. Lots of different comments like that. So we're going to try and get those incorporated and bring those back. And you should see that soon. I'm hoping we'll have the report in December again. These are the projects that White and Company is working on. No real change in these. They're still ongoing. I think we talked about most of these. In fact, yeah, I think we talked about every one of these. So it's in the packet that was sent out. The mission statement, for those of you that haven't seen what we're doing with building management. Again, I've been stressing with Henry and Brent and Matt that, you know, we want to try to meet and exceed all of our office holders and department heads' expectations for their buildings, so that their utility of them is something that exceeds their expectations. So that's something that we're consistently trying to do with everything that we work on. Some of our objectives and goals, I put some status on here. We've been doing a lot. We've gotten through a lot. We've done the building management team and reporting structure. We've established the building management department at their new office in the multipurpose building. They are fully occupying that space. All of the people report there and have a workshop. They have a working environment. They have, you know, their socialization of each other so that they get to know each other and work together as a team. That's been a huge help. We did divide into two groups between the Judicial Center and Government Center. We've hired qualified maintenance technicians. We've promoted some people from within. We're fully staffed. We've been working on the preventative maintenance plans. Those are in progress. We're working on getting the service desk live this month, early next month. We're going to be working on training. We've done some training events, whether it's for, you know, forklift and other types of things that the team operates. It's important that they're trained so that we can, you know, help protect them from any injuries or causing property damage. We're also going to be measuring our progress. So as we get into this, we're looking at the first 6 months of this as a period of kind of, we're going to roll with what we have, figure out where we're at, and then we'll reevaluate, strategize some more as we get 6 months into this. But a lot of that's going to be trying to determine what information and feedback we get from some of these systems. So we're going to be looking for reporting. The last piece is just really important to me is that the department becomes more customer friendly, more receptive to people's needs, listening, receiving the call, receiving the email, getting back to people. And we're consistently working on that. So anybody that hears of anything where, you know, they hear that somebody didn't get back to them, please get a hold of me or Henry or one of the team. We're trying to improve that as much as we can. We want to be responsive no matter what. We may not be able to fix everything at the time and place that it happens, but we can be responsive and we can get the right resources to deal with it. This is a large printout. I made some cutouts from this, but this is the budget performance report. You don't have to try to read this one because we're going to get into some details, but this is the full report. It was in the packet. So we're going to skip to the personnel services. So this is your salary, wages, and personnel services, and it gives you a picture of where you're at with 11 of 12 months, 92% of the year complete. 77% salary and wages is where you're at. Why is that the case? Well, you didn't hire people back fast enough as people were leaving or, you know, not hiring them quick enough to take up the salary and wages budget. That's picked up speed in this last half of the year with us hiring and filling, but it also, you know, comes out in the employee benefits totals. So, you know, we have 1 month left, 8% of the year, and we, you know, are way under on salary, wages, and benefits. That's just the way it works out, which is not a terrible thing, but that won't be consistent going into next year. This is an area that is of concern with building maintenance of old buildings. As you look at this, you're going to see that repairs and maintenance are relatively high. And the reason being the age of the buildings and the types of repairs that are happening. A lot of them have been with water systems and heating and air conditioning systems. They are, you know, some of the most expensive systems we have in really large buildings. We are at, you know, 144% on equipment, 100% on buildings, 121% on grounds. The only silver lining to this is that we're at 84% overall. So at 84% overall with 92% of the year, we're still 8% ahead for contractual services. It's unlikely that for the year we'll exceed our contractual services budget based on that. But with Henry, Matt, Brent working on the repairs and maintenance of the buildings, we're spending, you know, money quicker and more consistently to get the repairs done. So like I said, I don't think it'll be an issue this year. We're going to get through the year and we'll probably finish somewhere less than our full budget, but it's picking up pace now. We're starting to understand what maintenance needs we have. Yes, sir.
Mr. Davis?
Wouldn't you anticipate, Davis to speak, based on what you found in terms of lack of preventive maintenance in some of these conditions and what you're implementing within, I'm sure you probably have a projection within a year or two. So you'll start to see the return on that investment of doing the preventive.
I mean, you'll
maintenance.
see some of that immediately with systems. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing the water heaters, the boilers, the softeners, and you're doing it correctly and you're maintaining it with preventative schedules, they're going to last longer than if you're not doing it and you damage them in a matter of, you know, 3 to 5 years. So you're going to see some benefits from that. It doesn't change maybe the capital depreciation and the equipment that's just really getting old, but it will help you in terms of maintaining, you know, good, reliable systems that are in good working order. The ones that are in need of replacement, we provided that 5-year capital plan, and that's really to replace those that are beyond their serviceable life. But
Moving forward,
it'll be better.
we'll be able to avoid spikes.
It should be more level and consistent. 5
Towards
years.
an area, a time where
Yeah.
you don't have these, you know, catastrophic.
A lot of these are things that are being found to be, you know, unusable, unworkable, and need to be replaced. And I will tell you that many times it's because they have not been maintained over the years. And there's things that were, you know, maybe not provided the correct preventative maintenance, and it halved their life. You know, I mean, when you look at it, there's no other way to say it than, you know, so getting those schedules in place. And then, you know, there's the one thing that Henry and I have talked about, and we talked about it quite a bit, is it's one thing to have a preventative maintenance schedule, then the management team needs to actually verify. So, you know, it's the trust but verify type of mentality. Who verifies that the schedules are actually executed and done? And that's part of the follow-up of this, is you set the schedule, you give it to the technicians, let them do their work, but then the management team has to do spot checks, has to go follow up and make sure that it was done. And that's something that we'll be doing with the new service desk. It'll tell you when the maintenance was done, and then one of the directors can go and actually verify that it looks like it was done correctly and completed. So, but you know, I go back to the overall budget. We have 1 month left and we have 16% of the budget left. So we're probably going to be within budget pretty easily. And that's a good thing, but I think we're picking up speed right now. So hopefully I'll hold true that we can stay within budget as we go into next year. commodities, a lot of this is pretty straightforward. We're way under on commodities, 65%. And some of this is because of the quarterly or periodic billing of utilities. You'll see the utility numbers are still pretty high in there. We're still getting utility bills for this last quarter, and it'll consume a lot of that. So I don't know, it might consume most of it, in fact, but we're still going to be under budget for utilities and commodities. I would like to point out that the building management budget for 2023 had the energy cost increases built into the budget. And what we were projecting for a lot of the building management annual increase was the change of the decatherm price for gas going up by, I think it was almost 75-80% in 1 year. And that was a brokered bid price that was provided to us. So it was competitively done, and it's still, nearly doubled. We're looking at the electric utility right now, energy, environment, building management. We've talked with the broker. There's a resolution in here about the electric broker. We're expecting that to go up again, maybe it'll go up 40-50%. So those costs are all going to be reflected in 2023. And we asked for that in the budget. So a lot of the operating costs of building management that went up were, one, related to staffing it appropriately, but two, we have a lot of utility costs that are going up.
You have a question, Ms. Bates?
Yes, please. When will the solar panels come online, and have we taken that savings out of the budget?
We've talked about that with Ms. Wolnick, and I believe the timeframe was March. And that's tentative. We're working on kind of some other issues that we have to get through with the energy pricing and broker. That was actually big part of the discussion was how much will that affect our purchase? Because we're trying to estimate how much electricity we use for the broker to get accurate pricing. And they're working through, I think, a couple different models of how that'll affect us. So hopefully they can incorporate that and we'll get better pricing, or we'll understand our pricing model better based on the energy that we're producing. So I know we've been working with energy and environment specifically. They've been in the meetings. We're going to have them as a part of the team evaluating the broker proposals. And ultimately that'll happen this month because our electric utilities are coming to term in end of December. The major ones are. So we have to get that process taken care of. Again, for commodities, we're at 65%. Like I said, utilities last quarter billing will come in. But this next slide gives you kind of the overall perspective of where building management is. We're 92% of the year. We're 73% spent. We have 1 month left. Right now, if you took the budget less our transactions, we're at 1.6 million. That's sitting in the building management funds. And, we only have 8% of the year left. So I think there'll be, some money returned at the end of the year from building management. But if I know Henry and the team, they're going to try and get as many things repaired as we can in the next 30 days. So we'll see how we do. And that and the utilities. So I think that's all the all the slides we have for building management and their budget. Are there any questions about the building management budget? This is really kind of showing you the year end, where we're at financially as we close out the year.
Mr. Martin?
This isn't a question about the budget, but relative to your report. I attended the Juvenile Justice Center open house and I found myself very impressed by the degree to which human presence has been eliminated or altered by all the electronics.
Yeah.
Certainly it clearly has application to courtrooms, and I assume that our remodeling of the courtroom includes all of that.
Yes.
Is there any projection on your part as to how much of our general operations could be impacted by the investment of technology in what we do? I mean, physical presence in my generation is still thought to be a plus, but I know my kids would laugh if I ever suggested that they walk into a government center to pay their tax bill or do any of those things. Do we have any
You know,
projection on that? Because it certainly would impact upon space needs and to some degree personnel.
so this is Roger again, Mr. Chairman, if I. can
Yeah, go right
respond.
ahead.
So that's probably the greatest question of our time right now is how does all of this come out in the end after the pandemic, after all the changes? Most of the technology and the video conferencing and the remote work, all of that, people have kind of said they want to keep it. Now, in the process of developing that and putting it into place, we had a kind of an exponential increase in cost to deploy equipment to get ready for that. And we took that on with CARES Act and with other funding that was available to us to buy the equipment. Maintaining that part of it is going to be a challenge. You probably increase the footprint of technology in the county by 25% in a year. And it's a lot. And it was a lot of work, a lot of overtime, a lot of man hours, a lot of people trying to make that happen. And now you're kind of getting to the post-pandemic period, and a lot of that is being sustained and maintained. So there's the cost of the technology. Then there's the value proposition of the workforce and the type of work that you get. And I don't know if that's been quantified, you know, in terms of the flexibility and the payback. You know, how do you quantify whether or not you're saving money or you know, what effect did it have on your operations? I can say that in general, I believe the offices and departments that do the remote work and the work from home get more than their 35 to 40 hours a week out of their employees because of the flexibility. So a person that works 35, 40 hours a week in the office and goes home and works another 10 or 20 hours because they have the ability to do it is it's a plus for the exempt employees. Now with the hourly, we don't have that flexibility. You still have to pay straight, hourly rates and overtime. But the exempt workforce, attorneys, IT professionals, engineers, things like that, I mean, those people work until the job's done, essentially. And I think we derive tremendous value from that. The people that come in and work these exempt jobs during the week and then at night and weekend, they still work on stuff because they're just professionals. They want to get it done. So that part, it would be interesting to quantify that because I think it's tremendously valuable to the county and something that you want to encourage. Because if you had to match hour for hour with salaries to get all that work done, it would probably increase your cost by 20%. There's that much work that gets done by these people above and beyond their normal workday.
Yeah, I didn't expect a definitive answer, but if
Yeah,
we're working
it's-
on the issue, it just seems to me to
Yeah.
be absolute that if we don't maximize our utilization
One-
of technology and these other capacities, that we're not giving our constituents
of
what they
the-
deserve.
One of the things we talked about with the courts was trying to create like a pilot where we could capture, the costs that go into creating a remote work environment or call it maybe a kiosk or a kind of telework environment and how much they would potentially save in having their workforce do the remote, but you kind of create a pilot that you can capture the data on. We did so much in mass that, it's capturing the data on it would be difficult. But if you kind of could right size a project or a pilot project where you created a hoteling kind of capability for the office and you let these people work from home, does it save office space? Does it save utilities? What type of productivity do you get? All those kind of quantifiable things, I think would be a very interesting study. We just don't have it right now.
And one more.
Okay.
The other thing I want to do, we've long since beat this to death with good comments, but I really want to compliment all the effort and time and thought it took into putting together a management method and program
Thanks.
that had people with expertise dealing with issues. One of our past problems was always lacking that. And I really want to compliment you and your department for making certain that we have people with appropriate credentials who are in fact making decisions and recognizing frankly that one person can't carry the credentials to do all of these things. Each of these tasks are reasonably specialized, and the
Yep.
fact that we now have a method in place and the people that are performing it that are actually carrying forth the expertise, I think is a compliment to everything we've done today and your involvement with it.
Well said.
Thank you.
I'll chime in on that. We've got glowing reports from the Judicial Center, the
Good.
Chief Justice, who's extremely pleased with the progress we've made in our really, considering governmental speed, a short period of time. So it was save money, get things done.
Right.
Yes.
Fraz, comment?
Oh, well,
Hold on,
Ma-
Drew, let me just speak. It's Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. I agree that the responsiveness of Roger and his team has been miraculous compared to the early tenure, the first year that I was here. If something needs to be done, whether it's removing a cobweb, which were prolific throughout this particular building, noticed, to doing major structural development, let's say the courtroom, the JJC, the improvement of that courthouse, being able to analyze contracts, finding out what was paid, what was not paid, what the relationships were with the contractors, as well as, of course, the wonderful responsiveness of IT, as simple as helping me log in to a Zoom meeting for this crazy TV that we have upstairs, the monitor, or just helping out with the equipment and engaging our staff in new training of platforms and programs. It has been responsive, professional, and immediate. And we can't ask for anything more than that.
We're getting good response. I'm going to have Mr. Frost, since he's on the committee first, and then Madam Bates. Mr. Frost,
No
go ahead.
problem. Thank you. What I have to say is related to the mission statement, so maybe Blair can back up a little bit, but I agree with what Mr. Martin said 100%. I've been on this committee 14 years and chaired it at one time, and I have never felt in a very short time, we've gone to where I feel like we're really well organized, well staffed, and have a definite, clear vision of the future. Related to the mission statement, I like it because it's short and sweet. These things tend to sometimes be put on a shelf and never seen again, but I would ask that the staff and the future committee and the future board keep this at the forefront, because it's one thing for staff to maintain our properties, but it's another thing, if you look in there, there's the word provide. And I think it's important for the board and this committee to always remember that we're supposed to provide buildings and facilities that exceed the expectations, and that takes years. So, I've been an advocate for this, and I hope that will continue to be on everybody's minds in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Frost. Then Madam Bates.
This is a question about the studies and the space we need.
Sure.
Have they looked at shared offices? So somebody might come in Mondays and Wednesdays, and then someone else Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you take down their kids' pictures and you put up somebody else's kids' pictures. And is that part of the study that you're saying we
Yeah,
do
so
need to-
some of the comments, public, this is Roger again, some of the public or the office and department comments, not public comments, but some of those comments were around how would a co-working, hoteling, office space work in the future, and would that help us with managing our office space requirements? And it does have a lot of potential. There are a lot of places that do that, and I think a good project would be to identify like a pilot project to invest the money to build something like that for one of the offices and to demonstrate that it can work. But I wouldn't want to go into it without kind of blinders on and think that I can do this everywhere, because I can tell you in, building maintenance, IT, we have to be here.
Sure, that doesn't work.
If that breaks,
Doesn't work.
there's Yeah, you're not doing it remotely. So yeah, there's some things like that. And then I think policy would have to be developed. There's a lot of policy issues with people working remotely. They don't, how do you handle somebody that you don't see them, you don't, have the visibility to manage them.
Mhm.
So you're really managing their work product. And that can be challenging for office managers that are used to managing a person in front of them.
But
Quality
employees
and
like
quantity.
work from home.
Yeah.
A lot.
Mr.
So, you
Martin,
know what? I can also tell you that we've had in people that told us that one of the reasons they left was because of during the pandemic, we went remote and they liked the socialization of people. And they left because they wanted to be with a group of people that worked as a team still.
Well, there's always exceptions.
Isn't that
but I
crazy?
think the
It's like,
studies show
okay,
that-
well,
we're all happy to be here.
we don't
I
want to
know
get
that.
sick either. So it's kind of a,
Mr. Martin,
I just want to make sure that this meeting doesn't end in a timely manner. So I want to bring up one other.
is something else that needs to be beaten to death too?
So, well, no, well, to me.
That was your
it's-
line now, so
this has application to virtually every department and I suppose every elected official, but so much of what we do relative to contracting with equipment and projects and everything is with this department. I would hope that one of the tasks that this county could assign to itself is the reformation of our form contracts. I mean, I've had occasion to review them and look at them, and at least in my opinion, they lack in specificity to specific projects. I think we use the same contract forms, to buy a copier that we use to buy a truck. And that's a little poetic. I can tell by Roger's head, not quite nodding and not
Yeah.
quite saying no, but I would, and I've requested it with no success. So this is my swan song. I'm leaving, but I don't think that our documentation of contracts is where it ought to be. And
Is
if
it
it's being
appropriate for
worked
the
upon, I'm
administration
thrilled to
to make-
death. And if it's not, I would urge
So-
that we do something to straighten that out.
Thank you.
one of,
Mr.
I will,
Comstock.
I will add, this is Roger again. Yes, we are working with Karen Keitzman from purchasing right now on, how we do procurement and procurement tracking bids and RFPs. And then the follow-up to that is the post award, how you handle the contracting phase. Because you're correct, it has a lot of different paths things can take after award, and it has to go through committee, has to go through the county board, needs to be signed by Madam Chairman. There's a civil contract vetting process. If you saw the hoops and the method, things that you have to do, we desperately probably need a workflow system to do it. It is just that cumbersome and complicated. And you're correct in standardizing the process and the contracts and the instruments you use would improve that. Too often we're using an architectural standard agreement. And then the state's attorney's office cuts that apart and says, you can't, your government, you can't do these things. And then we end up having a kind of a part of a architectural agreement and part of a custom government agreement. And you're correct. Some of that could be streamlined and cleaned up so that we have a standard agreement and then the workflow and process. But with purchasing, what we're trying to do is there is a solution or a system out there that can capture the process. And we have to determine what the process is, but it'll capture it and manage the workflow and the paperwork. And Karen from purchasing is really interested in doing that. And I think if it's within our means, we're probably going to look at procuring it with her, trying to recommend that we go forward with it. And ultimately, not only would it create those standards and workflows, but the repository on the far end of historical contracts, historical information that the county is engaged in. So right now, there's contracts that I've been involved with for 20 years that the county has been renewing and dealing with software vendors and things. To put all the history of it together sometimes can be challenging. So we literally build folder repositories of the history of our agreements, and it's simply to answer questions. Now, is that handled the same way across the board? Probably not. So some of the history of contracts, where did this start? How did it get started? Keeping all of that intact with purchasing, I think is critical, and we'll get there. I think that'll be one of our projects, especially for next year with capital. We're going to try and work with Karen and get
Just-
that going.
You
Just so we're working on it.
can come back as an emeritus and
Yeah,
check up
public
on it.
advisor.
You have my authority to do that.
Mr. Chairman.
Let's not
May
go
I?
too far here, but let's go ahead. You have a question?
Number one, thank you for
Yep.
bringing in the new CMAP study. That's
Okay.
going to be super important. Number two, going back to the mission statement,
Mhm.
after many days of talking about the budget, I'm wondering if the mission statement should include something about on budget or below budget. Did you think about that? as part
No,
of the mission
we're
statement?
working on service and expectations for the officials and departments. It's understood that on budget. I
Okay.
don't think that's been a
Okay.
opportunity. Yeah. I mean,
That's
to
what
the
I
extent that,
communicated.
it's within our control, absolutely. That's
Okay.
I think a fiscal policy that the county has.
Okay.
So, but as far as our mission, it's still to exceed their
It's a
expectations.
great mission.
Okay, thank you. That do it, Ms.
Oh.
Bay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
So the,
All right.
the next part of this is the IT management activities, and some of these are pretty simple, but yet they're really extensive if you dig into them. We are preparing an upgrade for court case management for the 16th Judicial Circuit. We have been working extensively with the courts. This involves the Chief Judge's Office, the Judiciary Clerk's Office, and the court records, State's Attorney, Public Defender. We're also involving court services and the sheriff to some extent, but this is going to be a big project, and we're trying to work on this in the next 6 months to get them the latest version of court case management. So it's been a big activity for us right now. We're building the test environments to get that started, and then we'll go into actually testing the upgrades, but it's going to be a huge undertaking, and it will affect hundreds of court employees, how they work and what they're doing. So we have to do testing and validation, and a lot of things are going to happen. It's going to take a lot of IT time. Yes. Yes, this is
Okay,
separate.
we have the discussion with microphones, please. Did you have a question?
No, I was just.
Is that an
Yes,
aside?
That was an aside, and on top
Okay.
of the Safety Act coming in at the play at the same time.
Okay,
So
yeah.
yeah, it's a big project. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. That's going to be a focus for us for the next 6 months. We did do all the preparation work for the election cycle. I think last night was a successful event. We didn't have a lot of issues with the technology part. And anything we did have, we worked through pretty quickly, very small, minor issues, but so all in all, I think that went really well. I'd like to thank Charles Lasky, Chris Hemeseth, some of our staff that work on this. They do a tremendous amount of work to get the tech ready for election day, including Raymond Escobar and some of the people in the clerk's office, Fabian Franco. They do a lot of work to make this happen. I just think they should get some recognition. So
Great.
the storage system that the board authorized last month, that is being delivered, and we'll be working on that. That goes part and parcel to the court case management system. It's a large storage system that'll be the back end disk or storage system. It's actually all memory based, but it's a storage system for the county's server systems. We're still working on computer replacement this year. We had a little bit of a delay, but we're getting through that. If you're not familiar with computer replacement, we try to replace 20% of the county's desktop and laptop computers every year. And we're somewhere hovering around 1,500 computers. So it's about, 300 to 350 computers every year that we have to get through with our team. And that's in addition to all the support work that we do. But that's one of our big initiatives for our management of the computing environment, is getting through all the client computers. And then the last thing that it's on the agenda today is the IGA, or the intergovernmental agreement with the Forest Preserve. It's something that we've been working on with Monica Myers from the Forest Preserve for some time, and you have that on agenda today for approval. I think that's been something that we mutually agreed needed to be in place to just define the terms of what we do and what they pay for what we do. So
Mhm.
Monica's reviewed this. We mutually agree this is the right right information, right numbers and right terms. So hopefully you'll agree with us, but this comes out of the study that we did for the fees for services for special revenue, which the Forest Preserve is a separate levy, and we provide all of their IT services. It's kind of unique in the county. We're one of the only departments that fully supports another levy funded separate government entity. So again, this is the larger budget report. We have a breakdown. The IT department, we're on track with our spending. Personnel services, 92% of the year is complete. We're at 85, 66% for benefits. We have a few vacancies right now in IT. I think 2 right now that we're trying to fill. And some of those are related to people being promoted and then backfilling where somebody left off. We try to promote within if we can, and then secondarily we go recruit people to fill in some of the jobs on the beginning side or entry level side of what we do are easier to hire new people because of the government experience. On the higher end, it's easier to promote somebody that understands government than it is to hire somebody from outside of it and bring them in and explain it to them and expect them to perform at a high level while they're trying to learn how government works. So, but personnel, we're going to be under budget, and some of that's due to vacancies and the time it takes to hire. Contractual, we're doing really well. We're under on contractual, and a lot of this I think is due to the pandemic and our service and attention going towards coronavirus and ARP and other types of things that we had to do for other offices and departments. And we didn't do as many projects maybe as we did in the past. So there's a sizable amount of contractual consulting services that we didn't use this year. And a lot of that's because we were getting paid by other departments or other projects to do work and deferring some things. But all in all, we're under on contractual. And then this is our commodity side. You know, one of the things that I will point out is like our fuel costs. It's a minor part of our budget, but you're seeing it because of the energy costs. Our fuel costs went up, and I don't know how that'll hold out in the future, but we budgeted for it for 2023 to increase fuel costs. So again, you know, we're 92% of the year and 47% expended. And I think, again, a lot of this is we were busy working on other people's problems and trying to focus on COVID, ARP, court problems, sheriff, a lot of the other offices requiring our attention. So I don't know that that'll hold true in the future. And I doubt it. We'll probably be back to normal next year and busy as ever. So overall, again, you know, we have 1 month left. We're 77% spent out of 92%. And we're at about $1 million in budget less year to date. That won't hold true for another month. You know, we'll be less than $1 million. We have payroll and benefits and contracts and other things that we still have to pay. But it does look like, you know, we'll be returning money to the general fund, just as building management is returning money to the general fund. And we'll see how this next month goes. But if you have any questions about either budget, I'd be happy to try and answer those. This is the IT budget though. And then the last one I'll get into is capital. So any questions about the IT budget, where we're
Mr.
at
Ford?
closing the year?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This may be more of an overall budget question. So because of the pandemic, even right here in this room, you have to purchase a lot more equipment
Absolutely.
than they expected. So at some point, knowing you got a game plan to do a rotation.
Yeah.
And when do you expect that to start taking place?
So we started incrementally increasing the capital spend for equipment this year. And some of that's based on stuff that we purchased 2-3 years ago. So it's moderately more. And I'm not talking, you know, millions of dollars. We're talking, I think it was $100,000 to $200,000 more that we're going to incrementally increase to try to keep up with the rotation out. And it's manageable to the extent that the board can afford it. And then at some point, if the board says we want to constrain capital replacement of equipment because we want to return to the footprint that we once had. Or we want to, try to go back, downsize ourselves back into where we were, then we'll make that adjustment. I think the challenge for us is that it's the other offices and departments, that are demanding things. We just did a project with ARP for the Public Defender's Office to replace laptops that they bought right before the pandemic. They bought them maybe a year or two before the pandemic, and now they're wanting to replace them. And a lot of that was justified or explained as they can't live without them for remote work. So we're fortunate that ARP funded the laptops for their remote work. That was great. If that money's available and we can do that, that's great. Eventually, you're gonna have to pay the capital out of some other place though. And that's when, you have to have a kind of increment and build it into the budget over time. But if you look at, let's say you're doing 300 computers a year and you move to 400 computers a year, it's it's a 33% increase. And, 300 computers, let's say you spend, $200,000 to do that. So you're going to incrementally increase it, somewhere around 66,000. It doesn't seem like a big number, but it does have to be considered. And that's true for almost every system that we run. They're all that way.
Okay, any other questions on that? You're going to go into capital? Is that-
Yeah. So this is the capital budget. This shows you both capital budgets for building management and IT combined. And I'll get into this in a little bit detail, but I think one of the most interesting parts is budget less year-to-date transactions. And you'll see as you scroll down to the bottom, there's a number down there, which is 4.7 million. And that's the budget remaining in this year's capital budget. And what you see to the right is the stack of projects that are being worked on. And whether it's from supply chain or the procurement bid process or timing in the year, many of these are active projects that aren't done. So we're going to be looking at carrying over or doing a budget adjustment to move funds from 2022 to 2023 as these things come to closure. The other part of this is that there are some of these that are, probably need to be reconsidered or looked at before we move them, because we know that they may not cost as much as we have listed. And we already have taken contingency out of that. I personally don't think that we need to have a capital contingency when the county has a contingency fund. So we zeroed that out. Architectural programming, we're not going to spend that much on architectural programming before the year end type thing. There's other pieces of this that we need to review with Henry and the building team to see how many of these projects are in process or still need to be dealt with and carry over into 2023. So we're working on that. This is a list of the projects, not a list of how much money's been expended to date, just so you know. On the left-hand side, you'll see the amounts expended to date. So the 4.7 million is still in the fund balance, and the capital projects are the budget for each of the projects. We're working on getting project accounting for each of the projects to tell us where we're at in terms of the spending. And that's been something that I think is going to one, it's been a challenge, but two, it's going to get better. We're going to build out project accounting and a dashboard for how you see the projects. And it starts with initiation, which is initiating the list of capital projects. And then as you go into managing them, we'll be able to show you progress, and cost performance and schedule performance are the two things that I really want to focus on. So you know where we're at in terms of the cost and spending and the schedule. And then the last piece is change orders, risk. What do you do to track that and approve of it? So those are the things that we're working on in capital right now. But the capital budget, I mean, we're way under, but a lot of that's projects that are still under contract and we're trying to get them finished. The $777,000 is for the courtroom renovation. And that's supposed to be done by the end of this year. It'll probably finish in January. The final pay apps. So it'll be in next fiscal year. So we have to roll it into the next year. So that's $777,000 by itself.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have any, delusion that this money is available in any way. It's going to be expended as the first quarter of next year starts up. We also have the demo work for the Fabian site, which is over $500,000. It's probably close between $500,000 to $750,000. And that'll carry over because it won't be done by the end of the year either. And there's other projects in there too that.
This is the
are spent.
one that's already approved, right?
Yes.
So we're going
all
to go
those.
into that, into the,
Yep.
right now, the item B, are we, or the resolution to make
Did
sure
we
those
get-
are approved?
May I ask a question?
Certainly, Madam
Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you very much. First, Roger,
Yeah.
I'm surprised and I'm happy to hear, but I'm surprised that budget detailing per project was never initiated before. Is that,
So-
so you can track it? There was never the case of that?
They've had spreadsheets over the years and different ways of trying to track it. And what we're trying to do is use some, what I would call project management principles from most projects start with a project initiation, which that's what this capital list is.
Mhm.
It initiates it and it identifies it as something that the board wants to do. And then the second part is your planning, which is putting together the bid package, the RFP, getting the procurement addressed, having a plan for the project and doing the competitive award through procurement purchasing. Then the next stage you go into is the execution part of it, where you're taking everything that was awarded, everything that was planned, and you're actually doing the work and you're doing the monitoring and controlling for schedule and cost and, change orders and risk and all those things. And the last piece, which we really want to get to, is the closing. So any good project has a beginning and an end, and it has closing. And I think that just following some of those basic project management principles will be incredibly healthy. And then the second part would be not only to follow those principles, but to fully demonstrate those in this meeting. So you'll see where they get initiated, where they get planned, where they get procured, changes, contracts, and then the final part is the closure of it, which is all the documentation, all the warranties, all the plans, final as-bills, and creating a repository for the county where they own them. And I think that gives you kind of a more holistic view. That hasn't been done for the building projects. And it's been kind of this, I just call it like a distributed process. Lots of different people have different parts of that. So we're going to try to apply some standard forms to each of those steps. So in order for you to finish this piece, you have to do these things. And we need the documentation that those things represent. And that'll all become part of what we would make the record. So a lot of the first 6 months going through building management was trying to find all the correlating documents for a project to make sure that everything was in place, in order to proceed with it. And you have one on here today, which was a perfect example of that. Certain things that just didn't get put in the right place, maybe because we didn't have that kind of a structure.
Project management,
Control.
Yeah.
sound project management basics.
And,
Yep.
and one other, going forward, are you going to present quarterly results? So
So-
that we know when the project gets initiated,
Yes.
et cetera, in the second quarter. So we can forecast what's being expended at what time.
So-
So that we would know that going into 24, if projects are going to continue as we know now.
It's probably going to be month to month, like a dashboard. It won't take a quarter. It'll be every month. We're going to be trying to keep up with where are we at, and you'll see the progression as it goes through the
All right.
process.
Good.
And
Good.
one of the things that we're trying to do right now is to gear up to figure out the startup initiation for the projects for 2023, which the county board right now is approving the budget. So we're kind of halfway into, hey, let's start getting the initiation going, and halfway into, wait, we need to make sure that everything is in place before we start, doing a lot of work. But the dashboard type part of this, I think, will be something that the public can consume. It's not just the board, it'll just show what we're spending capital dollars on and where we're at in the process.
Perfect.
So,
perfect. That'd be
and-
helpful.
Opens transparency.
And
Yeah,
we'll
it
have-
might be its own website even.
I was going to say, we should have that link to a
Yeah.
website.
Yep.
What does the county do?
Yeah.
We build stuff sometimes.
I think that'll be healthy and we're getting there. We've already done the initiation I've already done the initiation survey and we kind of have the procurement with purchasing. And then cost and schedule performance is a little unique in government because we're government. We do it differently maybe than private sector. I know a lot of times you like to think you run it as a business, but it's government procurement. So we have some things that we have to do to measure that properly. But it's going to be good. I think it'll be very healthy and we've had good support from the maintenance and buildings department. They're on board with it. And I think it gives structure to some things that maybe seem unstructured. Okay.
Okay.
I think that's it for the report. If anybody
Yeah.
has any questions, we have resolutions, lots of.
Yeah, we need to bop through these here so we can get our next committee moving along sometime today.
Yep.
All right, resolution. May I have a motion and second authorizing capital projects from the capital fund moved by
Martin.
Martin, second by
Berman,
Berman.
This is the list of capital projects that the board authorizes us to work on. This doesn't obligate the board to actually, do the project. We still have to go through the competitive procurement process and award, and then the board would approve the contract. So we're recommending approval of the projects.
And this is like an ongoing monthly thing
Yes.
that we're doing. So we keep
Yep.
track of them in part this way.
I would
Make sure
describe
that-
it as, Mr. Chairman, that if it's not on this list, we're not working on it.
So
It's not a capital project to us. So that's what we're working on.
that way we're reining in any sort of outlandish things
Yeah.
going on the side. out
Anything
there.
that got started outside of that.
Yeah, so we got control. Keep our budget good. All right, any questions? Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis. Ford. Franz,
Who's Joe?
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius.
Guys, yes, passes. That was item B. So sorry, we waited for you to get it. Apologize.
Davis, yes.
Okay. Okay, item C, resolution. May I have a motion and a second authorizing payment of invoices from Cordigan and Clark and Associates for sewer line repairs. Board moves, second by
Berman, second.
Berman.
Okay. This is a payment of invoices. We received the payout for Cordigan and Clark. There was emergency or important work to fix the sanitary sewer line under this campus. This started about a year ago, and they've done a lot of work to basically line the main sewer line that goes out of the east side of the campus here. That work was completed and we received the payout. The invoices totaled $48,606.25. In reviewing this is one of the projects that I think a lot of the documentation, we struggled putting it together to find out where did this start? How did it get authorized? Where's the, agreements? And we talked to the state's attorney's office, and to provide total transparency and clarity, the recommendation was bring it to the board for approval. The work has been done. It's been done satisfactory by Cordigan and Clark, and the company is, I think, Innovative Underground or something. It's in here listed. But the general contractor is Cordigan and Clark, so the sub is Innovative Underground, I believe. But anyway, in order to get the pay app process for payment, to pay them for the work, it's already been done. We needed board approval. Yeah, it's Innovative Underground. So we're recommending approval. It is a budgeted expense, and the pay app's in the packet if you'd like to
About
review it.
48,000.
Yep, $48,606.25.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
So-
Madam Bates.
what's your
Oh.
best estimate of when this was initiated?
Well, it was board resolution 21-289.
21, 289.
Yeah. was, well, that was the that was the authorization for Cordigan. And then this work was actually, I think it was October. I think it was a year ago. Yeah,
It's been forever.
yes.
Okay. All right, we got a motion and a second, but Ford and Berman, any other questions? Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford. What's left? Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, item D, may I have a motion and a second authorizing expenditure of funds for furniture installation and related services? Moved by Ford, second by
Davis, second.
Davis.
So this
Mr.
is a master
carry on.
agreement under Omnia Partners, and what we're looking to do is through Midwest Office Interiors and Henriksen to have a agreement to purchase office furniture. This will be for all offices and departments. We're also buying the office renovation furniture for the courtrooms through Midwest Office Interiors using the same Omnia Partners. But what we are looking for is approval and authorization to buy up to $250,000 worth of office furniture from an Omnia Partners reseller, which is All Steel Furniture, and the vendors in our area are Midwest Office Interiors and Henriksen, and these are for budgeted furniture from various line items.
Okay. This is all new furniture?
Yes, we get requests for people to buy desks, chairs, office furniture from different offices and departments. And if we don't have a master agreement or a contract in place, we end up having to get 3 quotes every time they want to buy a desk or every time we want to buy something. So this just gives us a master agreement that we can purchase off of that has all the competitive procurement process done. We've been working with Karen Keitzman from purchasing to try and get something like this in place. And she came across Omnia Partners furniture agreement with a Illinois-based Midwest Office Interiors, which and also Henriksen. So I think this will help us with getting our furniture purchases
Streamline.
done. Yes, with a competitive procurement.
Good price, yeah.
Yep.
All right. Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, seeing none, roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, item E, may I have a motion and second for the authorization of electric utility contract and retention of Vanguard Energy Services as broker of record. Moved by
Davis moves.
Davis, second by
Gums will second.
Gums.
Okay, so this is the purchase of our electricity for the county, and we use a broker, Vanguard Energy Services. This would be basically the renewal of their extension to broker the electrical services. Then they go out in the competitive market, get pricing for us. They work with us and building management, energy and environment. And then ultimately that has to come back to be approved and signed. So what we do is work with the county board to get approval of the broker and the pricing, competitive pricing. And then we need to lock in the contract and sign the contract in advance of it coming to the county board for final approval. And that's just because of the broker process and the timeliness of it. You have, I think it's 24 to 48 hours to lock in the contract pricing after we get it from the broker. So this will authorize the county chairman to take the most responsible, lowest pricing for electricity. And we would be able to enter into the agreement and then subsequently bring it back for the county board. But we do need that advanced authority to sign the agreements within that 24 to 48 hour period. This is something that was done 3 years ago when we bought electricity, and it's been done for the better part of the last decade because of the need to secure the contract quickly from the brokering process. So we're recommending this. This is probably one of the biggest or best purchases that we'll do this year for energy. We did the gas the same way about 6 months ago. So this one, we're expecting to lock in the rates in early December.
Is there any, my question, any questions? First, my question is, any of this, are we considering a green energy on this or renewable energy?
We have our solar project, which is going to be incorporated into the supply side and how much electricity that we need to buy. And then there's some questions about in the purchasing process with the broker about what types of providers are providing the electricity. That's been an ongoing discussion with Jody from Energy and Environment.
We factor some of that in?
Yep.
All right, great. Any other questions? Yeah, I figured you'd jump in there.
I was about
It'd
to.
beat me to it.
I was getting ready.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford, Gums,
Sorry, couldn't find my button. Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius.
Yes. 6, information technology. May I have a motion and a second authorizing expenditure of funds for technology solutions, products and services. Moved by Ford, second by
Davis, second.
Davis.
Okay, so this is an agreement again with a joint purchasing partner, Omnia Partners, and this is using Southern Computer Warehouse to purchase computer technology products and services. And this is in an amount not to exceed $150,000, which is budgeted expenditure for the IT department. So this would authorize the use of Southern Computer Warehouse to buy parts and services and computer equipment. It's a budgeted expense and we're recommending approval.
Okay, any questions? Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius.
Yes. Item B, a resolution, may I have a motion and a second authorizing annual renewal of City View license and maintenance with Harris Corporation. Moved by Ford, second by Davis.
Davis, yes.
Davis.
So this is a annual license and maintenance agreement with Harris Corporation. This is a software package that does permitting and records for transportation, health department and development. The costs are prorated and the total amount is $200,000 or not to exceed $200,000. And there's a breakdown of the funds and offices that pay the different portions of the license. The largest piece is City View's annual maintenance for the software. And then there's some other components for they call it Bluebeam, which is an integrated service to transmit records and then plan review. So the total price is not to exceed $200,000 and it's in software licensing budgets. It is a budgeted expense and we're recommending approval.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius.
Yes. Item C, I have a motion and second authorizing expenditure of funds for technology solutions, products and services.
Davis moves.
Moved by Davis,
Gums.
second by
Gums,
Gums.
second.
Gums, seconds.
Got to go
Okay.
fast, Michelle.
So this is
Going
another,
fast.
Mr. Chairman, this is another cooperative where we're working with Sourcewell partners. And again, all of the cooperative agreements, Omnia, Sourcewell, we're working with purchasing department with Karen Keisman, try to make sure we get the contract numbers and the original agreements and our partnerships in order. But this is Sourcewell partners. This is for Mitel Business Systems. Mitel does the county's phone systems and voicemail systems. So this is license, maintenance and support services for our telecom phone systems, mass notification and cellular that we work with. It's a company called Telecom Innovations Group. And they're on the Sourcewell Partners agreement. This is for $150,000 not to exceed. It's a budgeted expense and we're recommending approval.
All right, any questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius.
Yes. may I have a motion and a second authorizing and an intergovernmental agreement between the Kane County Forest Preserve District and the County of Kane for hardware and software services. I guess it was the authorizing, must be an agreement. I've got and on my
Berman
agreement for
moved.
the whole thing. Berman, second by Ford.
Okay. Yes,
Question?
it is, and
Roger.
we'll get that, Jay. Authorizing agreement for the IGA with the Forest Preserve. So we did a fee study about a little over a year ago, and we've been working with the Forest Preserve on structuring an intergovernmental agreement that would sustain over time what we do for the Forest Preserve. And we negotiated basically a rate that was different from the fee structure, but it increments annually till we get closer to what would be the fee structure. So this increments $20,000 a year for the next 10 years. And it runs through 2031, but this is a long-term arrangement that we've had with the Forest Preserve, and this formalizes it and puts the numbers and the costs annually on paper. And it was something that I believe Monica and the IT department, this committee had wanted to do, just to try and formalize what was already being done. And it puts it in writing, so there's no misunderstanding about who's doing what and how much money is being paid for that service. You'll see that somewhere in 2031, they start to get to the point where we catch up with costs, and it's becoming more equitable. And I think that's where we wanted to get to over time and working with the Forest Preserves. So this was handled by the legal counsel with the Forest Preserve and the State's Attorney's Office. Myself and Monica Myers from the Forest Preserve worked on the schedule and all the services included in the contract. I think it's a good agreement. It gets us on track to where we want to be. And I think both Forest Preserve and the county will be well served by it. And we're recommending approval.
Yeah, I think we've been working on this for about 3 years, 4 years.
A year
Year.
for this part.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think we
I
started
think we
discussion
should-
a long
I think
time
we should
ago.
lock it in at that 2022 and work on it for a few more years.
No,
Yeah, I think.
I would like to see it just expedited. I mean, come on.
so we,
Out of order.
Mr. Chairman, this
Yes,
is Roger again.
you're not out of order. Go ahead.
This schedule has been it's been paid the last year, and
Mhm.
we're on track for this year. It's been followed. It's just getting the final agreement. in place.
Formalizing.
Yes.
Yeah. This is just the formalization. What's the process? Okay, good. Any other comments from members of the committee?
Is this a charitable contribution from the government to the Forest Preserve? Do we get some trees named after us?
Sure.
Just,
Madam Pine.
About at 2024, maybe at that rate.
Okay,
More trees then.
all right.
With a nice
Moving
little
on.
plaque on it.
Any other discussion that is relevant? Okay, roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Reluctant, yes.
Ford, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Tyus.
With reluctance, yes.
Mr. Chairman, you should also see this on the other side coming through Forest Preserve, just so
Yes,
you're aware.
I'm sure we will see it.
Yep.
Yeah, and we've discussed it, so great. Super. All right, then we're on to the Mill Creek SSA, item A. May I have a motion and second authorizing a contract renewal for Mill Creek SSA office space lease, moved by,
Surprise Island. They have a second.
I think I heard Froz.
Yeah, I don't know if he's still on.
You gotta work at it.
I did hear Froz.
And you too.
By Froz, second by Ford.
Okay, so what this is a piece of
Leon?
No, he's.
the
Of course,
lease
come on.
agreement with
You better make that Ford and Dabst, Ben. I
Oh.
apologize. Mix you up there. Ford and Davis.
Tried. We tried.
Okay,
All right, so
Sorry.
this is the Mill
To you.
Creek SSA office space lease. The lease is with Shodine Group. It is $12,685.44 a year. I will tell you that this was something that was deferred early in the year and never brought back up for consideration. The lease expires at the end of this month, and we're working to get another lease from Shodine. At the time, I believe this was in March, it was tabled by this committee, and it never managed to come back. So There was some discussion about whether or not they were going to stay in the
Oh.
property or go month to month or how that was going to happen. And they've managed to stay there month to month for the entire year. So we're going to sign this. This was something that Shodine requested as a part of their agreement. I believe they need to produce the agreement for their own financial statements. And then we're going to work on getting another agreement because we plan to stay. So for now, anyway.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Braz. Mr. Martin?
Procedurally, do we need to take this off the table or if, to your point?
We're just introducing it again new.
Okay, all right.
Start again. Don't have a state's attorney to refer to. I think it will, or Mr. Our resident, right. Okay. Shepro. Or Shepro when you need him. Okay. Any discussion further? Nothing. Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford, Gums. Martin.
Yes.
Yes.
Caius.
Guys, yes.
Passes.
All right. Nothing for vehicles? Any new business from our committee members? Whole business? May I have motion and second I'll entertain a
Unanimous consent to place
consent.
reports on file.
That becomes, is there any objection to that? None.
Yep. Was she asking for unanimous consent?
Yeah,
Yes.
Davis.
that's what I interpreted that as. They're on file. No need for executive session. We have motion and second to adjourn.
Martin.
Martin's first, second,
Davis second.
Davis, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.